I would be like, why is that a concern for her? What are your patterns there? How have you done anything to change those patterns, if at all? Like, I would
My feet are
dig in there.
so
But she's
cold.
like, oh, so like, why did she feel that way? And he's like, well, in the past, I've never really been sure about anybody. And I always
Give
found
me a
something
minute.
wrong with them. But it'll be different with you for some reason. I feel like I have so much unconditional love for you that I wouldn't run away. I think this falls under that general bullshit of like a man is waiting for the right woman to become a real man or something like that. Like, oh, that's not to say leaving a relationship is wrong. I think you should do it. Honestly, I wish more people would. But the mom having this indication that he will hurt her doesn't come off as like a person who dates and breaks up with people in a healthy and normal way. It comes off as like he's a lot to deal with. Lydia meets Milton's roommate, who was weird but nice. He reminds me of people I went to high school with. They used to play Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Izzy and Stacy go to her house, and this starts a very awkward conversation of money because she has it. She got a lot of it. I have a lot of anxieties around the concept of interweaving finances with another person. It would take a lot for me to get married or have children. I'm really going no on both of those. Like sharing money with someone else is very scary. She's like, I bought this house and the bills can rack up very quickly. Like I could have to pay something that's $20,000 just like that cash. Like, and since you'll be living here and we'll be married, like, are we handling that together? You got this house and plan to pay for it by yourself before I even knew you existed. Like, I'm getting married. I wasn't trying to have a $10,000. I guess that's what marriage is. So I don't know. Maybe this is just my aversion to it coming out. Cause like, huh? You bought this house. But he says like he's very pro go 50-50 on things. So we can do that. She's like, what about dinner? And he's like, I mean, it depends. And she's like, no. The man always pays for dinner. And again, we just have different priorities, me and her, because I'm like, a relationship is a very long time. Like a meal isn't that big of a deal. Like, yeah, maybe early dates, I would feel some type of way if you weren't trying to impress me, I guess. Early dates and like taking me to dinner and stuff like that. But if you're in a marriage, like we can interchange it. Like you pay this time, I pay next time, or depending on like the occasion of us eating. Like if it's my birthday, I'm not paying. Okay, but she's very like, no, the man pays for that. She's like, I don't expect a man to pay for everything, but there are things that I like to do and there's things that I like to experience, particularly traveling. And when I go, I want to go in luxury. And he's like, oh, okay, well, I've never been in a relationship where that was like a big deal. So this is, this is going to be different. I do agree, again, that if you're going to get married, you have to talk about things like money, salary,
Hey,
retirement,
how are you?
savings. But again, I don't want to mesh myself with someone else like that, and that's why I shouldn't get married. I feel the same way about kids. Like the idea of us so enmeshed that I pop half of you out of my pussy and it grows up and has thoughts, feelings, and emotions in specific ways that we can fuck it up. Most likely me, because I'm the mother. Odds are any of the actual burden of caring for the child on a daily basis will fall onto me and I will get all the criticism. And for what? Because I really love you for some reason. Because I know it's out there. I'm sure it's out there. I've seen people like in healthy relationships, and I'd be like, yeah, y'all should have kids. Most people shouldn't, in my opinion. Most people shouldn't, and most people shouldn't be getting married.
Hi.
That's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time. Oh, and that's another thing. Living together, they moving in. They gotta figure out where his stuff gonna fit. I had to. Oh, she goes into the financial history of her family. Basically, her grandfather was dirt poor. He was able to make some money generation by generation. They've been
Hi.
able to amass, very impressive wealth. And one of my fears is that I'm going to end up in a marriage where the guy feels like he can just sit
Answer.
back and do nothing
Or ask.
because
I might
her
answer.
dad will take care of it. Because he probably will, but I want that to be something that you want to handle and you want to take care of instead of just taking advantage of our family, which is fair. They end on a good note about that. He doesn't seem particularly worried, at least superficially. So finally, this episode ends with Aaliyah and Uche meeting. Only positive thing I can say is that I like her talk. It's weird. But they play the dramatic music, and Aaliyah is like, I regret having left you like that. I do love you. I want to be your other half. My heart is in your hands. I would still marry you if you would have me, essentially. What happened to standing your ground, bitch? Damn. Anyway, episode 7. Okay, so this episode kicks off from that conversation, and basically Uche is like, I felt like I couldn't say things about Lydia because I'm friends with her, and I was kind of damned if I do, damned if I don't. I didn't want to badmouth my friend, fair, whatever. I mean, I feel like you could have added that as a caveat. Like, I wanted to stay as neutral as possible because I could tell you guys were becoming friends, but I feel like it's inappropriate to not tell you these things. That's all you had to do, and that's all she had to say as well, but whatever. He's like, but I wish I would have told you everything for contact. This is his side of the story. She invaded my privacy while we were dating, and she lied to me about it, and I broke things off. And she kept like obsessively trying to contact me and bridge the gap, and some time had passed, so I decided to give it another go. And eventually, friends would reach out to me with screenshots of her profile saying like, do you know her? She's like in my profile looking at my stuff and it's kind of weird. And I found out that she was going through people I follow and keeping tabs on them. I'm not saying that this doesn't have some element of truth, because again, I don't like Lydia after how she handled everything. No, something about this don't sound right to me. Does it sound right to y'all? Because I'm like, wait a second, people you follow know what her link is to you, feel powerfully enough to ask you about it. Unless they had some weight in you, Uche, were you dating these people? Because that would make sense to me. If you were cheating on Lydia with someone else and she's looking through your profiles trying to figure out, I'm not saying he did, I'm just saying something's not adding up for me. Not only did one person put that together, but several people put that together. Who would have any stake in that enough for multiple people to reach out to you for it unless they felt, I don't know, am I crazy? Again, I don't like Lydia, but there just feels like there's part of this story missing. Or maybe she was just outright stalking everybody, like, don't talk to my man. But he doesn't say that. He doesn't say that she contacted any of these people. As one nosy bitch to another, sometimes I just get bored and just go through people's shit. I just want to know. Like, so I don't know. But he continues saying that she started stalking him, essentially. He doesn't use the word stalking, but he alludes to it, saying that she would drive by his house, take pictures of the outside of it, and say, I see you. Ooh. So he said after she did that, he panicked and stopped talking to her. But after she stalked him, he started to feel bad because, well, he said she was going through a lot at the time. And he was like, I felt like she needed me. So I started dating her again for some reason. Until she got friends and went to therapy. And then we broke it off because she was better now.
I dropped my pen.
Am I the only one that thinks that's such a strange story? I mean, unhealthy relationships are strange, so I guess it's not impossible, but just something doesn't sound right. Something doesn't sound cohesive. Again, maybe I'm just biased against Uche, but I just feel like you stopped talking to your stalker because she was taking pictures outside of your house, but you felt bad because she was going through a hard time, and you said, my stalker needs me. So not only did you reach out in general, but y'all started dating it. Y'all broke it off because she was no longer, sorry, I'm not trying to be rude, but what? I don't know. Maybe I just don't understand this particular level of entanglement. But Aaliyah seems to be believing it. And he's like, I'm sorry I didn't give you full context, because maybe then you would understand that perhaps she, was still obsessed with me. And that maybe she didn't have the best intentions. And again, I'm not saying it's untrue, but again, since the pods, we have not seen her talk about Uche at all. Like, again, she's with Milton. They're like, having a good time. They seem really in love, really into each other. So this conceptualization that she's obsessed with him, I don't know, maybe it was true in the pods, but like at least since then this is like a non-issue at this point. Now it's just kind of poking a bear. if that's your concern, is that she's so so obsessed with you, she's your stalker. Aaliyah says, like, I was a bit concerned because you, Uche, seemed really invested in her and Milton, whether or not he was ready for marriage, and you didn't want her to get hurt, which again is strange if she's your stalker. Or maybe not. Again, unhealthy relationships are weird, so maybe I'm kind of missing the point by trying to make it logical. The entire time he was confessing to having known Lydia. He goes on this whole spiel about how she's such a great person. She has a beautiful heart. She's so genuine. She's so kind. She's so caring. She's so devoted. And now you're telling me she's a deranged, obsessive stalker. Then why were you at that time still wanting me to be friends with an obsessive stalker? You wanted me to continue my friendship with her. There's bullshit afoot. Like, I feel like somebody lying, and it's definitely Uche. With that said, Aaliyah's like, I do feel like Lydia knew you were going to be here because she was talking to girls on the first day, talking about she felt like she was going to meet someone that she knew. So maybe that's true. Uche then goes on to talk about how hurt he was when Aaliyah went hot and cold after leaving without a word to him. She would follow him and unfollow him, send voice messages, then delete them, block them, then unblock them. So I can definitely understand how he feels confused and frustrated. And then Uche is like, I felt like you didn't show up. You left because of some girl. You left because of somebody else, but you didn't talk to me. You didn't have confidence in me and our relationship. So it's over between us. Which honestly, best thing he's done the whole show. I think that's great. You saved both of you just a bunch of grief, mostly Aaliyah. Izzy brings Stacy to his house, which is very clean and very well decorated for a straight man, trust me. But she ends up getting kind of upset over... They go into his bedroom, and in his bathroom, he has something that he jokingly calls the lost and found, where people would have left random shit, presumably they came over to hook up, jewelry, stuff like that. And he's kind of like, I keep stuff in here because, you know, I don't know if they're gonna get them later, and then it just like compiled over time. She's like, who do these belong to? And he's like, I have no idea. Like, at this point, I have no idea. And this is something that ends up really bothering Stacey. Like, she takes it very seriously. She's like, I feel like, considering you're engaged, there's so much from before that I've thrown away out of respect for you, and you keep this, people that you don't remember, and you haven't thrown it away.
That's what I just did. Like, drop my fucking pen marker.
But it's not. I feel like it's very, I don't even know what the driving emotion is. Because he asked, he was like, do you think they're like sentimental things? And she was like, no, I just feel like you should have thrown it away. And I'm sitting here like, as a bitch with ADHD, I got so much in my house that I don't know where it's from or who left it, or, you know, I probably would have left it because I'd be like, that's crazy. You was really hooking up in here. That's crazy. Well, now I got you. Now we got stuff to pawn. You can buy me something nice. I know what it's like to just randomly have a bunch of shit. So I genuinely was sitting there like, I don't understand why this is a big deal for her, but it is, and it really bothers her. And then she ends up frustrated by other things in his house, which is him not having dishes. He eats on paper plates and drinks out of solo cups. Go ghetto and bad for the environment. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But she's like, so if I would have had a first date with you and you would have cooked this great dinner for me, you would have served it to me on paper plates and solo cups. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm too ghetto for this because we kind of did that at my house, at my parents' house, because sometimes you just don't feel like washing dishes. Maybe on a first date, probably not. But also, I don't think it would be that big of a deal.
Is it just me or does it look really fucking good?
But, like, she goes off as if it's disrespectful. This ends up starting an argument because they both feel misunderstood about these damn paper plates and all this bullshit. Izzy is like, I wanted to show you how I lived prior to meeting you, and I feel like me showing you that you don't think it's good enough. It's coming off very materialistic and judgy, which honestly I agree with Izzy, especially because you got plates. We can just use these up and then use your plates. Like, why is this a big argument? But to her, as she explains it, and again, I'm struggling to understand it because this is just not how my mind works. But she's like, to me, the fact that you didn't throw away the lost and found and you have the paper plates and the blah blah, it felt like you weren't trying to impress me. They're trying to explain each other's sides, and she cuts him off, and he's like, can you please stop cutting me off? And then she walks out and she's crying, and I am like, again, Because if you start bawling over some paper plates, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna just be like, he better than me. He goes out and comforts her, and he does a great job. Again, way better than I would have in that context. He's like, I know you're frustrated as hell, and you probably don't want to see me right now, but I'm not gonna stop fighting for us. So it was cute. Milton meets Lydia's mom and brother. That goes pretty well. Izzy meets Stacy's family, and that goes pretty well as well. It seems that she's lighting up on the bronzer. The brows are still questionable, but that goes well. They do end up rehashing the stupid ass paper plate fight, and they seem to have found a much better foundation for their relationship than that, because it shows that
Keep fucking flipping them on accident.
break up over paper plates. But she starts like crying about how like she really wants that tenacity, that perseverance from a partner because her parents broke up. Okay, so in a final act of chaos, they decide to have a mixer with everyone from the experiment, not just the main couples, but like anybody that participated. And everyone comes, from what I understand, except for Taylor and JP, because they just like, I'm done, I'm tired, which I definitely get. Johnny comes in, and Stacy kind of talks about how she does not like Johnny, which we haven't had a lot of focus on their animosity towards each other. If there is, well, this is kind of the first we're getting any in-depth conversation about that. Stacy is like, I don't like her because in the pods, I was the one to put together earlier that we were both talking to Izzy and that we were both building a very deep connection with Izzy. And when I found out it was Johnny, I felt sad. I felt empathy for her because this is such a rough time, especially because I was getting the vibe that Izzy was going to go with me, and I felt really bad for her. But the whole time, apparently, she was shit talking me when she found out it was me. Like, oh, he's gonna regret picking her, oh, blah, blah, blah. And we see a little bit of that on camera, so she's not pulling it out of her ass. So she's like, no, I don't like that bitch. And I'm like, fair. But with that said, in relation to Johnny and another disappointing turn of events, it would seem that Johnny and Chris ran into each other at the airport and are now dating. Yay. In an interview, she starts crying about how amazing he is as a person and how grateful she is that he's giving her another chance. They have Izzy and Johnny talk in another pointless ass conversation with Izzy involved. I don't know what, I think they were trying to use Izzy as like a shit starter, and I just don't think he has the zeal for it. They end up talking, and he's like, I'm so relieved that I ended up going with Stacey because I heard a bunch of sketchy shit about you because you told me and Chris opposite things. Again, if you recall the whole like, oh, I've always dated the safe choice, but I'm going with what feels like trying something new, trying something different. That's what she says to Izzy. And then to Chris, she's like, I have a pattern of going with emotionally unavailable people that aren't safe, and I want to try something different. And he was like, I thought that was sketch. And she was like, she, however, insists it's the same thing. Which, considering what little we know about her dating history, I wouldn't be surprised if she has dated like the good guy and the bad boy, and maybe has a history in some way or another with both of those archetypes. And so maybe she was presenting different parts of her dating history to each of them. Regardless, how she presented it to them did feel like contradictory, so I can see why they would be like. And she goes into this very strange defense where she's like, if I was so sketchy, would I be with the nicest guy here? What? What is that? Okay. Nice people date horrible people all the time. They tend to go together, honestly, often. But anyway, she goes back to Chris. She's crying. She's like, he was saying how sketchy I am, saying that everyone thinks I'm sketchy. Do you think I'm sketchy? He was saying that I don't deserve you. I feel like probably struck a chord for her. Like, just the way that she's crying about, like, you know, he gave me another chance. It shows me that she feels to some degree that she doesn't deserve him. He's there to be like, well, I know you. Like, if I thought you were a sketchy person, I wouldn't be dating you. And she's like, after this confrontation, Izzy, super weirdly, is like really pumped up and excited about calling her out. But he goes to Stacey talking about how he had this conversation. Maybe he was super excited because he felt like, oh, like I can tell my girl that I did something for her. Like I like went into her because I know you don't like her. So that was stupid. And just when things were getting really boring, guess who walks in? Uche. Pretty much immediately, according to editing. He goes up to Lydia. He's like, hey, would you like to have a chat alone for a second? And she's like, nah, not really. But they do go off into having this conversation. And he starts kind of talking about the background of their relationship, like emotionally, when they were dating. I'm really whittling this down. But basically he said, your life was in shambles, and because of that, I felt like you really needed me and I felt needed by you, and I really liked that about you. You did have other qualities that I really liked, but the thing that drew me to you was you being in distress. But we broke up because
Alright, I'm gonna end now. Bye.